tuned in to Salaamedia. Our next segment is called Know Your Manifesto, where we'll be talking to different political parties about what they have to offer you, the South African voters. We lead up to the 2024 general elections, which might happen in May or August, depending on the president's announcement, which holding thumbs that it might happen at tomorrow's the State of Nation address taking place in Cape Town tomorrow. Hopefully that's when he'll be announcing when the elections will be. Everyone is waiting with bated breath, and I know one of the parties that's waiting with bated breaths is the African Transformation Movement, a party led by President Vuyo Zungula. They're carrying out for the 2024 elections with a targeted strategy aimed at engaging despondent voters. Despite only having 2 MPs in parliament and a limited representation in provincial legislature and municipalities, the ATM is known for its assertive stance and seeks to mobilize the significant number of unregistered voters in South Africa, which are estimated to be at around 13 million. I think we have a representative from the African Transformation Movement, Mr. Zama Ntshona, who's joining us on the line to speak to us about the ATM's readiness for the elections and how they've been preparing and what they have to offer you, the South African voter, as we urge closer and closer to those elections. Mr. Zama Ntshona, thank you so much for joining us on Salaamedia, and welcome.
Good morning to you and the viewers and the listeners.
Thank you so much. The African Transformation Movement, I'm sure you guys have been, firing on all cylinders, preparing for the 2024 elections. How has the journey been so far? Are you happy with your preparations? Have you canvassed well enough to secure yourself more seats in Parliament going into the general elections?
Transformation Movement, since the 2021 elections, we've been consolidating as much as we can so that we can put ourselves in a good position to be that alternative voice in the country, to be that voice that people, when they think about advocacy, they think about accountability, when they think about service delivery, they would actually think about the ATM. You'd remember that as soon as we entered the space in 2019, we came in firing in all cylinders. You would remember the stance we have on the microeconomic space, the stance we have, because the ATM has been saying, sometimes we want to get what we do not have when we can't manage what we have. And there's nothing wrong with us going to what is rightfully ours that has not been granted to us. We must go full steam. But the problem can be you have it, but you are a bad manager of the available resources. So we've been saying take stock of what you have and manage it well as you are advancing towards getting what is rightfully yours. And one of those is the microeconomic space. The microeconomic space, you find a lot of South Africans displaced, unfortunately. Now, understand us when we say this. African Transformation Movement is saying we are open for business. Anybody who's interested to come and invest in our country, we don't mind opening our doors. Come in, but let it be legal. Let it be as according to the rules and regulations of this country. And skills and jobs that do not require skills must be readily available for South Africans. So since 2019, when we entered the space, we've been advocating for policies such as those. Also, we have since 2019 been advocating for a harsher sentencing or punishment for heinous crimes, especially for repeat offenders. You would remember the story of Uyinene Mkhwetyana, who was killed by a repeat offender of the same crime. The guy killed somebody and was taken to jail and came out and still did the same thing, which means that he is an unrepenting and unrehabilitated individual who does not want to live in harmony with other people. the African Transformation Movement has been calling for a referendum on the death penalty for repeat offenders and also for drug dealers. So that that's what we've been doing. And come 2020, when we moved for a Section 89 impeachment process on a president that has admitted to the violations of the Executive Members Ethics Act, the violations of the PRECA Act, conflict of interest in issuing of an unlawful instruction. The ATM was leading in that, and you would remember that an independent panel actually found accordingly. So throughout, we've been consistent in making sure that we raise our hand to South Africans as that alternative voice that will hold any government accountable, but even better, as a leading government of this country. So the last part, since last year, which was the 25th, 26th, and the 27th of May, we started with the campaigns launch, which was in Gqeberha, which was successful. After that, we went to the policy conference, which was in Durban. After the policy conference, the Youth League of the ATM went to an elective congress of the Youth League. We have now a well-established youth league, a well-established women's league. The policy framework of the ATM is on point, coming to the launch, which was in December last year. So we are ready to take on the 2024 elections.
Mr. Ntshona, the South African voter, is growing largely conscious, not just conscious about what, the parties, various political parties are offering internally, in South Africa, but also how they respond to global issues, how parties, would respond to, what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, and most recently, what's currently happening in Palestine. What has been, the ATM's, stance to the atrocities, I should say, that the people of Palestine are subjected to by the Israeli occupation forces? We've had different parties have a different stance. Where does the ATM stand on this?
Thank you so much. The ATM, having looked at the history, especially the history of the Palestinian people, the state of Palestine as part of the Ottoman Turks Empire that ruled for more than 400 years in the very land that is now called Israel. The ATM is truly sympathetic and sensitive to the displacement of Palestinian people, especially that when the Jewish people left to Europe and other countries, there is no direct link to a war of dispossession by Palestinian people. They were not dispossessed of the land. Most of them left in their own free will. And if you read the story, it will tell you that they are bankers and they are economists and they are business people who seek better grazing land. Now, when the project of nationalism started in Europe, especially in Germany, and the unfortunate incident of the Holocaust, and then the subsequent moves by the Zionist movement to get the Balfour Declaration so that they can come and establish a state of Israel in Palestine, is one of the important occurrences in how we position ourselves as the ATM. Do we agree that the Jewish nation must have a land of their own? Yes, we agree. But do we agree that they must displace Palestinian people to get that land? No, we do not agree. But do we agree that both have traces in that very land? Yes, we agree. But can the Balfour Declaration, the British and the League of Nations, together with the Zionists, make a decision without consulting Palestinian people? No, we do not agree. This is why, as the African Transformation Movement, after the first Aliyah in the early 1900s, the second Aliyah that said when the Jewish people started going back to Palestine, we feel that the League of Nations truly messed up greatly. Because before you call people to go to a land you call their own, with the intention to displace those who are there, they should have started with talks. left the Jewish people where they were, or if Germany is proving to be a problem, then they must find space elsewhere in Europe and the rest of the country before good talks be ushered in before Jewish people are there. Now let's come to the present day. It has been 100 years or so. Remember that since 1948 to date, that's about 75 years, since the establishment of Israel in Palestine, which means that you have generations of about 100 years of Jewish people, and you have generations of about 500 years and beyond of Palestinian people. Now, you can't wish these people away. You can't wish Palestinians away. You can't wish Jewish people away. Now, how can you find peace? Because we are calling for peace. Because it is clear that both nations can't become one nation. Because religiously, they stand on different positions. And when it comes to self-determination and the plan they have for each nation, it is not a simple as come together and form a government of national unity. It is clear that each must be given space to self-determine, and each must be given space to self-determine. So as the African Transformation Movement, that's where we are. A two-state solution, we believe, can be a solution to this problem. But do not downplay the atrocious acts, the displacement of people from their homes, the demolishing of a government, the scattering of people, because Palestinians were experienced that. So in a similar way that the Jewish people were able to get compensation from Germany for the atrocious acts that were committed against the Jewish people in the Holocaust, the ATM is considering and saying that it should be the same with the displacement of Palestinian people by the Jewish people. The Jewish community owes the Palestinian people a lot. But what we are saying, 100 years later, you can't wish both away. So we must find a compromise. I know it is hard trying to tell Palestinian people who have been in those lands for more than 500 years that now they must reach a compromise, especially now after 23,000, 25,000 people have been bombarded. But the truth is, both coexist in the same area, and both have a right to self-determine. They have a right to land. They have a right to a peaceful solution, and we must find a way where we are both to exist. And we think that solution would be the best way, considering the circumstances.
And just lastly, before I let you go, Mr. Ntshona, to bring it a bit home, the ATM has been vocal about the need for citizen empowerment. Can you elaborate on the party's approach to empowering South Africans? We know that the stats and numbers of people that are dependent on grants has been increasing every year in the country. Does the ATM have a stance on this, and how you could have more people getting off social grants that essentially that the ANC has created a nation that's dependent on the government like never before?
Thank you so much. Even though they are not going to be in any chronological order, but immediately fix the electricity problem. The electricity problem, when you look at 2017, with a 78% base load with no load shedding, and mid-2020 we had 58% base load with a permanent load shedding. In 2019, we only had 30 days of load shedding. In 2023, we had 335 days of load shedding. That has impacted the economy greatly. And you would remember that the economy of the country was ailing already. We were always an investment grade above junk status. And finally, we were declared to be on a junk status as the country. So one of the biggest challenges we have right now, so that we can restore some order to a certain percentage, is that fix the problem. This is how you fix the problem. One, ask the international, in fact, ask to be excused from the international treaties you have signed, we have signed on the issues of carbon emissions and the green economy, because we are only pumping only 0.4% of the carbon into our atmosphere. They must allow us to burn coal, because that is what is readily available, till we get to a point where we have actually saved the country from the challenges that we are faced with. And then we'll go back to those treaties. That's number one. Two, very important that all those companies that are building power plants which are not adhering to the time frames, they must have deductions on their allowances, so that they understand the extent of the damage they are causing by not keeping to the time frames. Number three, in fixing the problem of Eskom, all those who are hijacking plants and mixing coal with unwanted stone, destroying our generators, those contracts must be terminated with immediate effect, because those people are causing a problem for the country. Number five, the army and the police of this country must now guard those plants. It mustn't be that we are going to have trucks that are going to be hijacked. Coal must be escorted from one point to the other, so as to deal with the syndicates that are dealing with that. Also, make sure that the board and everybody else is functional. I don't want to waste your time. The last part on that, stop burning diesel to produce electricity. That is costing us $1 billion every year. So electricity aside, education. Now, our education system, we've been encouraging children to go to school. They now have qualifications, but they cannot be absorbed because the systems of this country are not synchronized. You just have an education system that is not linked to the economic trajectory of the country and future plans of the country. And then suddenly you have graduates that cannot be absorbable because the skills required in the economy of the country do not speak to the skills that we have produced. Now, synchronize the plan. What are the future projections for this country? Which industries are we going to need so as to have an upward look as far as the economy is concerned? When you synchronize that, now you know that for now and the next future 20, 30, 50 years, you have actually synchronized that. The third issue, I touched on it a little bit, the issue of the microeconomic space. The displacement of the natives in jobs that do not require skills must be dealt with. There was another study that said there are about 17 million foreign nationals that are taking jobs that are low-hanging fruit for South Africans, like tellers, like petrol attendants, like being services in hotels, where you do not need special skills. The laws of this country are very clear. If we take somebody who is not from the country, they are our brothers, we love them, they must come to our country, we have no qualms with that, but they must provide skills that are not readily available. So when you do that, you are actually assisting South Africans who are now not happy because those who are living in poverty in the country are 28 million. 28 million. Now, if you were to put things in order, you'll be able to deal with them. The last one for now, there are 4,500 mining licenses that are sitting on the table of the Department of Minerals and Energy that are not being processed. These people who are applying have funding ready. These people who are applying have seen prospective grounds for mining, but the government is sitting on these. Now, just imagine if we were to actually give those people permission to mine after, of course, we have actually satisfied ourselves with their compliance. There will be jobs that will be created in the country. So we feel as the African Transformation Movement, if we can do some of those things, we can do things right. Things like toothpicks, they must be produced in the country. Things like toothbrushes, they must be produced in the country. And secondary industries, once you take the diamond, don't sell it abroad without adding value to it. Because we buy it expensive, more jobs will be created. These are but some of the ideas and the policies and the stances we have taken as the ATM. Of course, within the limited time, I can only squash it down to these. But these are
Mm,
some of
mm.
the items and programs we're going to roll out post May.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ntshona there of the ATM. Thank you so much for giving us your time and wishing you all the best in the 2024 general elections.
So much to you and the viewers.
Yeah, well, there you have it there, Mr. Zama Ntshona of the ATM, giving us the lowdown on what the African Transformation Movement has to offer you, the voter of South Africa, going to the national elections, which are a few months away. Could be 2, could be 3 months away, depending on President Cyril Ramaphosa's announcement, which might come by later tomorrow at the State of the Nation address. This is a segment called Know Your Manifesto. We'll be talking to different political parties and their stance on different issues that are affecting you on a daily. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking to Jean-Guy Verteau. He's the head of mission for Sudan. We'll be talking about the malnutrition crisis that has gripped the north of Darfur in Sudan, with one child dying every 2 hours. Going to be highlighting that dire humanitarian situation that is in Sudan. But for now, we're going to take a quick break. See you after this.